We've got one more wild card game this weekend on Monday night, the final Monday night game of the entire season. It is the Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, the Rams winning the NFC West this year. Really hot towards the end of the season, and a weird division out west in the NFC. And then, of course, the Vikings, who lost the game that was going to decide the number one seed. Of course, the Lions won. They end up winning the North, puts the Vikings in a game on the road here on Wild Card Weekend. So we're going to get into all that, everything that we've been getting into all weekend. The injury report, of course, the betting lines, my prediction, kind of a breakdown of the game we will get into here. So if you've been enjoying the game breakdowns, make sure you hit that like button. Smash the subscribe button too if you are new. We are on the road to 300 subscribers, building a little bit of a football community here on YouTube. And so let's go ahead and get into this injury report. This actually might be the cleanest injury report of the entire weekend, as you'll see here. With the Vikings, we have Patrick Jones II. He is out, the outside linebacker with a knee injury. He did not practice all week. Taki Tamani, D lineman with an ankle injury. He is questionable. He did practice all week. And then Cam Akers with an illness. He is questionable. He did not practice on Saturday. So we'll have to see on Cam Akers. Other than that, clean bill of health for the Vikings for the most part, other than those three guys. Got some rest-related stuff in there with Stephen Gilmore, Harrison Smith. Sam Darnold is facing a quad injury, but full practice, not designated with anything. And on the Rams side, zero designations on their side. A couple of guys, Rob Havenstein, O-lineman with a shoulder injury, light practice most of the week, full practice on Saturday though. And then Hunter Long, the tight end, he had a quad injury. He had full practice all week. So clean bill of health for the most part, as clean as you can get at this point in the season. We are looking at the wild card weekend, going on week 19 of the NFL season essentially, and you know you're gonna get guys that are injured throughout the season. And to get here with, as much support as you can is the ultimate goal. On the Rams side, you look at Puka. He dealt with an injury, only played 11 games, still had a stellar season. Shout out to Puka Nacua, waiver wire pickup on my fantasy team last season. And so most of what we're looking at is going to be a full squad, and that's exactly what you want to see in the playoffs. One side's best against the other side's best. All right, let's get into this breakdown of our final wild card game on Monday night, Vikings-Rams. And I mentioned that the Rams were coming in kind of hot. Minus week 18, where they didn't play their starters, of course. The Rams had won 5 games in a row with their starters intact. Kind of a tale of two sides, though. The defense has really been outperforming the offense of late. And really with the Vikings coming in kind of slumping the last few weeks, we'll see how this is going to, really work out for both sides, because obviously the Rams are going to have to put up offensive points, and the Vikings defense is very, very strong. They've got some really, good talent on that defense for the Minnesota Vikings, and I almost feel like the Vikings have done what the Falcons tried to do, where they kind of tried to, get together, I don't know, Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold, almost same kind of thing of going out and getting I guess not budget quarterback in Atlanta's case, but somebody to kind of fill in until they get the next guy there, which J.J. McCarthy probably would have been the starter this season if it wasn't for his injury in the preseason, of course. At least I'm assuming, to get him kind of gelled with some of these receivers, of course, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, maybe the best receiver in the NFL, probably the best receiver in the NFL at this point. So let's get into that. I mentioned the 5 straight wins. The Rams have held teams under 10 or under 20 points from weeks 15 to 17. Meanwhile, Minnesota has given up 24 points or more in their last 3 games, and 19.5 points per game, which was 5th in the league. So the defense did very good, held opponents under 20 points a game this season, which 17.7 was the Chargers' number 1 scoring defense in the league. And the Vikings are just a couple of points difference from that, less than 2 points, actually, at 19.5. Just these last few weeks have been tough. They did play Detroit last week, which is obviously a very tough matchup for any defense in this league. So a little understandable. The problem is is that not only has the offensive line performed, no sacks taken in the last 4 games, Matt Stafford has not. Matt Stafford has a sub 85 rate in the last 3 games. So Matt Stafford is going to have to start making some of these connections with Puka or Cooper Kupp, of course. How about Demarcus Robinson? He scored 2 touchdowns against the Vikings in Week 8, where the Rams, of course, won 30-20 over the Minnesota Vikings in that Week 8 game. Uncharacteristic game for that Vikings defense out there in Week 8. And that's exactly what the Rams want to exploit in this game as well. If they are able to run the table and beat this Vikings defense, they're going to have to do it through the air, but they're also going to have their run game. Of course, Kyren Williams, who has had an amazing year for the Los Angeles Rams. Minnesota's defense has also allowed an 82.4 rate to quarterbacks. That's second in the league. The most interceptions in the league with 24. And 49 sacks, which is tied for 4th in the league. 113 QB hits is also tied for 4th in the league. So they have gotten after the quarterback as Minnesota's defense. And again, I mentioned some of those guys. Ivan Pace Jr. was a guy in the draft, obviously not last year, but the year before that I really liked in that draft and thought the Chiefs maybe should go and get him. Obviously, they didn't need a linebacker as much at that point. Having Willie Gay and Drew Tranquill joining the team, as well as Leo Chanel there, Nick Bolton, plenty of linebackers there. But I thought Ivan Pace was a very good option. He ended up being undrafted to this Vikings team and has been a stud ever since. I know last year he won PFF's, I think, Rookie Linebacker of the Year or something to that effect, but a Rookie of the Year award via PFF. Meanwhile, Minnesota's putting up 25.4 points per game, which is 9th in the league. They're going to have to get their offense together as well and rely on that defense, because 20 points against this Los Angeles Rams team, and this defense is better. They put up 20 points against this Rams team in Week 8, and this team is so much better since then. And you look at down the stretch, the Los Angeles Rams defense allowed just an 89 rate to quarterbacks in Weeks 9 through 17. So go back to that stat of 82.4, which was good for second best in the league by Minnesota's defense. You're looking at Los Angeles defense, that the back half of the season, they're at 89, a sub-90 quarterback rate. So that's going to be huge. This might end up being a defensive struggle, honestly, by all accounts. The Rams offense is struggling coming into this thing. The Vikings offense is, still been solid, but the defense has struggled. So somebody's got to get back on track. The Rams defense or the Rams offense has to get back on track, or the Vikings defense has to get back on track. I think that side of the ball between the Rams and Vikings, the Rams offense and the Vikings defense, probably decides this game, because I think you're going to get Justin Jefferson's best performance. I mean, they're probably going to put anywhere from 24 to 30. 31-ish points on the board, I would assume, against the Rams defense. Although they've been, as good as they can be, I think holding them to like 24 would be solid. So you got to get it in your head that on offense, you got to score 30 to win this game, I would assume. At least that would be my path to victory for either side, really, is to get to 30. First to 30 wins this game, and that might be a little bit of a high number, but I think this game is really the most, just sporadic. I don't know how this game or the game script will work out, because you got the Vikings and the Rams, who both like to run the ball. You got Aaron Jones running the ball in Minnesota, on the Minnesota side, and then you got Kyren Williams on the Los Angeles side. I don't know. It could turn into a fairly low-scoring defensive struggle where both teams are really trying to run the ball, or it could turn into a game where all hell breaks loose and each team is, throwing the ball up and down the field. We'll see. I'll get into my predictions a little bit more of how I see the game going. But next we are going to get into the betting lines. So let me start with the betting lines of saying, of course, the tragedies that's going on in Los Angeles with the fires and everything that's happening. This game was moved from SoFi Stadium to State Farm Stadium Field, whatever they call it. They're in Glendale, Arizona, where the Arizona Cardinals play, of course. So obviously thinking about everybody in that area and suffering with those fires, and it's a tough time, and it's been insane. Everything that I've seen has just been absolutely horrific to see. So definitely thinking about those people, especially people who lost their home, lost their lives, loved ones. It's just a bad time out there. So going into the betting lines, we have a shift to a neutral site essentially. Not as neutral, I don't think, just because you look at the geography of everything. You got Minnesota way up north, and then you're still sticking to the Southwest down there in Arizona. So I do think that, Rams fans should, travel well to this. But Vikings fans traveled well to Detroit. So we will see. Obviously, that's probably less ground to cover from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Detroit. But nonetheless, plenty of fan bases travel very well. And the NFC North is always one that travels well. I know that Kansas City is closer to Minnesota, but every time that the Vikings play at Arrowhead, there's always an influx of Vikings fans in the stadium. So I do expect them to travel well, and probably would have traveled well either way, even if this game was still at SoFi Stadium. And I can't speak to it because I haven't watched a ton of Rams games or Rams home games at least. But, a lot of times you'll see the Chargers have a game and the opposite team is absolutely dominating the entire stadium. I know when the Chiefs go out there, a lot of times you'll see half the stadium will be red. And, during the national anthem, you hear home of the Chiefs, as we do at Arrowhead. So let me stop rambling and get into these betting lines. Vikings versus Rams, the spread. -2.5 Minnesota. Vegas is looking for it to be a tight game. Over-under is 48 points, which I think is the second highest total. I think that the Sunday night game was 51.5, right around there. If you're looking at the money line, you got Minnesota at -143, Los Angeles at +121. This season, the Vikings are 11-5-1 against the spread. Meanwhile, the Rams are 9-8 against the spread. I don't know where to call this game. This is the one game that I feel like a million possibilities in my head. I think that Minnesota, I think I would take the -2.5 for Minnesota. I'd say I'll take the over on the points. I'm trying to think in my head right now as I'm discussing these of where exactly my prediction is going, because I'm still kind of up in the air where I want to go on this. Money line, I feel like this is a wash because, -143, is it really a point putting, money on Minnesota? Because that's who I'm thinking I would take. I just believe in Minnesota more than the Rams, but the Rams are like this weird dark horse team that I could absolutely see getting through Minnesota and kind of maybe hushing the crowd that, hey, if you didn't win your division, you shouldn't, you should be getting, or records should choose the home games in the playoffs, which I'm on the fence about that, either or. With that being said, we'll get straight into my prediction now, moving from the betting lines over to my prediction. And I'm going to kind of keep these betting lines in mind, in my head while I'm talking through this, because I'm still undecided exactly where I want to go. I do, because it's just I could definitely see the points going under at 48. Or even being a wash, it being like a 28-20 game. It's just such a, you know what, we're going to take the under. We're going to take the under, and we're going to say 27-20 final score. Vikings win on the road by a touchdown. That'll be my prediction. We'll go 27-20 Minnesota Vikings. This is the one game I'm most uncertain about on any of it, though. Whether it comes to the spread, the over-under, all of it. This is a game that I personally would not touch. I absolutely would not touch this if I was putting money on it. So just there's my 2 cents on this game. But we will take the Vikings in this game. So that is going to wrap things up. Well, I guess I'll get into a little bit more before I just cut to the outro. But that's just how this game is. I don't know really what happens in this game. I think the Vikings are just a better team all around. I think that the Rams have a feel good to them and are kind of that, diamond in the rough kind of team that I do think maybe next year could be a real contender. The only problem is the quarterback position, and that is my whole reasoning to this too, of the way that Stafford has played here at the end of the season. I just don't see him being that guy that can take them and elevate them above what Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison have done, and Aaron Jones, of course, for this Minnesota Vikings offense. Kevin O'Connell has done a masterclass of a job this season. And I was high on Sam Darnold coming into the season. Well, you can go back to the beginning of the season, and in my quarterback tiers video, I said that I was big on Darnold this year. I wish I would have hammered the point home more, because I didn't think I spoke enough on Sam Darnold as I should have, because I did feel really highly about him coming into the season. And just because you got Jordan Jefferson, you've got Jordan Addison, or Justin Jefferson, you've got Jordan Addison. You have a very good receiving core there, and TJ Hawkinson as well. I think that those guys are part of why Kirk Cousins succeeded so well. We saw last year, they did pretty well, whether it was Dobbs or, honestly, I don't even remember who was playing quarterback in Minnesota last year. But it wasn't terrible at all times, just because you have, again, probably the best receiver in the world, and then Jordan Addison, who's probably the best wide receiver two in the world. I mean, he would be a wide receiver one on many other teams in this league. So I think that the offense is going to be a little bit too much. I think the defense kind of gets back to form for Minnesota, and I think that's how they really end up getting this win. Again, 27-20, we're going Minnesota. And with that, I will leave you for a wonderful wild card weekend. I appreciate it if you guys tune into the game previews at all. Something new I kind of started to do, or something new I wanted to try out, and just decided to go for it. I did this on my Substack when I was writing maybe a year or two ago, where I was doing every single playoff game. And, obviously this channel I keep more Chiefs-centric, but, we talk all football here. And so if you enjoyed any of these game previews, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. Plenty of people are watching this channel that are not subscribed. Also, hit the like button. That really helps, and I really do appreciate it. But we're on the road to 300 subscribers, building a community here on YouTube. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, especially if you're here right now. Why not? Let me know who you got in this game. Who are you taking this weekend? What was your biggest surprises of Wild Card Weekend? But yeah, so until next week, until divisional round, we'll see you next week. And I won't be as friendly because my Chiefs are playing next weekend in the divisional round, and they are going to stomp the Houston Texans. We'll get into a good review of it, and also tune into the podcast weekly. Film breakdowns on the way as well, and we will see you in the next one.